So we've seen the port end, Port Dinorwic, we've seen the quarry, we've seen some of the quarry, not all of the quarry, in Dinorwic itself. So now we're going to turn our attention to the actual railways, the routes that got that slate from the quarry to the sea. Now we've got two generations of railways here, or tramways, depending on how you want to look at it. And we're stood up here, it's now the bus turning circle area, just close to the village, the little village of Dinorwic, just up the road here. Now I don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm going to guess it's Allt Ddu. That's the and then U. But somebody told me that when you've got a U after a th, it's pronounced the, the. And we're going to be looking on this episode at an old horse-drawn tramway. This is the first iteration of an attempt of getting a railway down to the Menai Strait. Now there's been quarries around this location that predates the actual main Dinorwic complex, and we started seeing the internal tramways arriving from as early as 1800 actually within the quarries. And where we're stood here is one of the early quarries. If we just fetch you over here, look, you can see the quarry just up there. The documentation for this is a bit sketchy. The maps aren't really that helpful in a lot of locations, but we have got some interesting things to investigate and show you what remains of this old horse-drawn tramway. And this was called the Dinorwic Railway, Dinorwic Tramway, Dinorwic Gang Road, depending on which moniker you want to go with.
Plateway even. They used to call them plateways, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Yeah. But just look at the Slatescape, just where we're stood here, look. Obviously that's the quarry just in front there. So this Dinorwic Railway, just a few things before we crack on showing you what's left. So 2-foot gauge, we've already mentioned it was horse-drawn. It didn't really last very long for reasons that we'll get onto as the video progresses. It included several inclines. The route of the line wasn't really optimal, and we'll show you the later version of this line, the Padarn Railway, which starts down at the bottom, because we should point out that where we are here is fairly high up in the Dinorwic Quarry complex, and this is where they were getting the slate out in those early days. But as the quarries developed around here, and the big huge one that we saw in the last episode got bigger, this was no longer viable. They were having to bring the slate up to this to then take it down the inclines to the sea, so it didn't stand the test of time. It was modernised by 1840s. It didn't really have a long lifespan. In old money, Phil, I saw the figure of £9,000 just to build the railway back in those days, which was quite a sizable amount. I don't know the equivalent these days.
Well, let's say if that were today, you'd get what, about 3 centimetres of new railway for £9,000, wouldn't you? You know.
And distance-wise, past 7 miles, I believe. I don't know the exact distance, but it was a majority single track, apart from on the inclines, which will tell you a little bit more as we cover the inclines on our way down to the port. And where we're stood here, just above the village of Dinorwic, that's just there, we can actually see down the valley here, look, right down to the Menai Strait. Can you see it? That's Anglesey right in the distance there, and you can just make out a thin body of water. So that's the route. We've got our route. Maybe not the exact route, because it does kink and curve its way down there. But it's laid out in front of us there, the journey that this slate needs to go. So those early engineers that stood here, that's the problem right in front of their eyes there. Prior to this first Dinorwic tramway, slate was already being transported by packhorse. In the very early years, it left via boat down the Clyn Padarn, later via a slate road, the route of which our tramway loosely follows. As usual, I'll show you a selection of maps as we go along. Given how long ago this was abandoned, there's only really evidence on later maps very fleetingly, but Railmap Online gives a good generalisation of the route. We followed it out of Dinorwic and then along the road to this point here. So here we are, we've progressed down a short distance from where we was in that bus turning circle. Look, we're stood on here, this is the road here, is built on the route of the old 1824 tramway. Look at these walls here, are these an indication, do you think, Phil?
Would it have been this wide before it was a road, who's to say? Have they cut into it to put the road in? Have they cut into what it was before?
We're just saying it probably wouldn't have been a road, maybe just like a pack horse.
Shared, it'd be a shared trackway.
Well, the tramway's veering off just to the left-hand side here. And what we've got here, we've got a series of inclines because I wouldn't say it's been level. It's not a gravity railway, this. It's not, it wasn't propelled downhill. But I suspect it wasn't flat, if you see what I mean. Now, when we get to here, it really, really drops off a cliff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 2 or 3 inclines? I can't remember now. We've just walked up these inclines from the village down at the bottom.
Some of us have fell up them as well.
Yeah, Slate is slippy when it's wet. So this is the route here. Look, it's come off the road, and we're now just heading down this. I'll call it a farm track, shall we, or a minor road to a house, a dead end road. So look, we do see evidence as we've been walking along already. Look, of it being constructed out of the side here, don't we? I mean, look at these. But you don't know if things have been added when the road's been...
For stability and protection for the road.
But I did notice on the way down, these may not be anything to do with this. But look, I mean, we're talking 1840s when this, I think it was completely removed. Track infrastructure was removed in the 10 years or so, or even 20 years.
They got rid of it quick, didn't they?
Yeah.
All got took up quick.
Pulled it up by 1860, was it? It had all been taken away. But where is it we saw when we were just walking up? It went onto a little bit of an embankment here, didn't it?
Look, it looks like they've done a bit of quarrying, and I wonder if they were quarrying stone as they went along as they built it to pack it all up to make it stable for the heavier traffic that would have been running on it with the horses and the sleigh compared to what it was before when it was probably some sort of byway for just walking down,
Quite possible. I mean, this is all... We might sound like we know we're knowledgeable. This is fact-finding this. This isn't documented at all, really. There's bits of this that you'll find information on, but I've not found anything of anybody that's taken a walk down these inclines or taken any recent pictures or done anything like we're doing in these videos.
This is trying to use a semi-trained eye to pick out what we can, but picking out stuff when we've gone on walks from the late 1800s, 1900s is a damn sight easier on a full gauge track than this, which is a horse-drawn 2-foot gauge, 200-year-old. It's going to be hard, so it's testing the ability of trying to work it all out, isn't it? What we can see, what we can identify, really.
And you can relate to some stuff from stuff that you see at other places, can't you?
There's not many clues. That's all I can say. You really got to. Your mind's really, going.
Oh, hello. We're coming up to the top of the first incline.
And you know what we've not seen so far? You normally will get engine house, engine lane, incline house, incline road, blah, blah, blah. You're not getting any clues like that here.
I mean, these weren't engine powered. This was horse drawn. They were balanced inclines. So the weight of the trucks going down pulled the empties back up.
But if you look at this area here, look, which I think could be the start of the incline, you see this here, look, there's some activity here. You can tell by the way that the stone's been built up. There's a little bit on both sides as well, look.
I'm guessing there's going to be some kind of building or something with a braking drum at the top of here.
But you would have some kind of platforms of some description where workforce would have been standing, trying to operate whatever the mechanisms were to run this, because it's so old it's hard to decipher. But that looks like a prominent remain, in my opinion. What do you think? It's not easy, is it, to work out?
No. It's very, actually, when you take a step back, very platform-esque, isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah. So that looks like a working platform, and it probably went beyond this borderline of this house, so that, people might have been stood beyond just this section where you're filming here. It could be a little bit bigger, we don't know.
Craig-Lwyd inclines, or incline, I'm yet to figure that out. Yet to figure out if that was 1 or 2. But let's make our way down the first bit of this. I mean, you can see, look, it visibly starts dropping away.
That's a start point working area, isn't it, of some description we've just seen, without a doubt.
The landscape here isn't really friendly to doing that much investigation.
No,
is
it's very odd for identifying purposes, shall we say, and it's the tail end of summer as well, which is also not brilliant.
Vegetation is very, very, very overgrown, but
Look at that there.
What are you looking at there?
I'm just looking at that. Again, we're just faffing looking and trying to work out. I wonder why that's in that shape.
Now this, the road into this house at the end veers off to the left, but we can continue. Look, this is the start of the,
Well,
call it rustic.
yeah.
It's off road. We need to be careful on here, Phil, because I've already I've already had an incident. We're not far from Bangor Hospital though. That's reassuring, and they've got me on file there. There's no doubt that the years of foliage and vegetation are making this set of inclines harder to spot. But if we cycle back through the historic images on Google Earth, we can see the view changing over the last 20 years.
Yeah, you know, you got your width of these two walls, haven't you, really, to kind of, if you look at it from here, if all this foliage wasn't there, we'd say, oh wow, this is a great looking incline, but it's questionable because it looks like just a public footpath, but the border walls on both sides look kind of giving the game away that this would have been an incline. You would probably imagine the water's just completely eroded any smoothness of a track bed, as it were. You know, in a random path where, you know, your walls coming close, it's staying. Have you noticed? Pretty much exactly the same width as we go down.
Let's have a look back up. And we've just been commenting as we were walking up here, climbing up, clambering up, or falling up in my case, that you could walk up here, you'd never have any suspicion or any, you know, that this was a railway line. It's now a stream. It's pretty much a full blown watercourse. Phil's just noticed here, yeah, look, it widens out here, look. The wall, Phil, the wall goes in like a triangular shape. It's quite distinctive.
I wonder if there was something on the, not halfway point as such, but, you know, as you go down, was there some kind of, I won't call it a plate layers, obviously not, but, you know,
something we're breaking.
Something was here, look, because the wall's gone across to that side, and that's also been, there's a very smooth escarpment there, looks like, shoring this up. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? But I mean, trying to find out what was there, I think it's virtually impossible. It's definitely imagination time, isn't it, really? We
are a little bit hamstrung with, given how old this is and how long it's been abandoned, you know, abandoned by the 1840s. The maps, you can see some parts of this tramway on more modern maps. You know, well, I want to say modern, you know, 1900s, possibly even before that, as down as just a route. You know, just two lines, unannotated. You can make out where it went, but that's about it. You know.
Well, you see that border wall's suddenly got very wide here. Look, have you noticed? And I mean, obviously there's something to do with the stream. There might be a little culvert coming out there, but this is really now suddenly gone really wide, and we're beginning to approach where there's a sudden left. And you know, if it's a pulley system, a pulley wheel won't go left. There's got to be something on that bend, as it were, because you can't go around a corner with a pulley or rope, can you? So there must have been some sort of mechanism on the floor down here. I mean, I don't know how it got around this corner. On a horse pulling it around a corner with just small wheel, you know, they get around any corner, but I can't understand how the mechanisms would work.
It wouldn't be horse-drawn here, would it?
So it'd have to have a separate, another working. I don't know. Let's go and see if we can find anything. It's odd.
But you don't know if did they take the horses off at the top of these inclines and put new ones on at the bottom, or did they escort the horses behind the wagons?
I don't know, but you know, were horses something to do with powering it? A turn circle. Look at that area there that's been cut out in front of you there. Look, this area here looks like a bit of some kind of area. Was a horse powering the mechanisms as well?
As far as I know, it was just
gravity up and down,
balanced ballast inclines.
Right, okay.
You don't know though what. I have read that online. You don't always know. That information is also an assumption. There will be people watching this who maybe know a little bit more. They maybe have a lot of local history. Let us know, as always.
It's also hard to imagine we wouldn't stumble across a stone sleeper with the holes in, like you get back up our way, you know it.
I have got a note on my notes to say what was the. Now I have read. I can't remember if there's this original one or it's the newer Padarn Railway. Slate. They were using slate at some point as sleepers rather than the limestone that we're used to finding up on the Cromford.
Yeah, we've got to readjust our mindset. We're not in the peaks anymore, are we?
But no doubt in my mind that some of those, whatever was used on those early sleepers is probably still kicking about in walls or new, infrastructure, stepping stones, steps. What are you looking at here, Phil?
I'm just thinking that this sudden left turn, how is that possible if the rails were true to the path? Because it suddenly goes left. There's got to be some kind of mechanisms to cater for the sudden left turn here if this is bang on the track bed, in which case would they need. How did that gravity work if you've got a sudden a left turn? I don't get it.
The way I understood it, or assumed it, should I say, was that this was the bottom of one incline.
I think you're right. Because if you look here, this looks like it's been cut out here to make a bit of a work. We call them working areas, just to give folks a bit more room to manoeuvre to do what they've got to do. Look, and this built up here. It's really difficult to work out. There's no way they just suddenly turned left and went down there. Put it like that.
But look, it's literally like a 90-degree bend, isn't it? Near enough.
So there would have been some marshalling going on here of some sort, resting, waiting for the next section of the procedure to take place. So
we've been umming and ahhing and we have consulted one of the old maps, and just right on this 90-degree bend, somewhere here we've got annotated some kind of building just at the top of the incline that we're assuming to be. Wow, look at this, Phil. It does level off here. Yeah, can we just put our record, please, that I had a suspicion before I looked at any map that there was something going off on the left here.
Just here, yeah.
It was, yeah. You did, to your credit, yeah. Look, it levels out and then it just drops again. So it is a separate incline, isn't it, look?
Yeah.
And is that a brake, where they had the brake drums and things just on the left-hand side?
Yeah. It looks to me like this is all engineered. Here then, so let me have a. So look, you've got there's nothing conclusive, but yeah, there was something here. Look, it looks like the base remains. It's so far covered in moss, it's hard to discern that there could be foundations and bits and bobs of a building that wouldn't stood here.
Well, we can see it on the maps, can't we?
Yep.
To be real, and it's dropping off. This incline's dropping off here. This path isn't as well trodden. Well, there's another one of these then. Yeah, these have got to be.
Yeah, these are infrastructure, aren't they?
Do you think they had communication cable? I don't mean like electronic cables, but like we saw on the Cromford and I Peak.
Something that would have gone through there, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Like with a signal at the top and a signal at the bottom. But look at that. Look at the drop off down there.
This is proper built up engineer, this is now.
We walked along the path looking up here, and we've driven on the road just at the other side, and we were looking over trying to pick out where these inclines were, because to be honest, this is probably the biggest thing to film on this up here, isn't it, Phil?
Well, the tree line gave it away for me as we came up to it. I kept saying that tree line looks a bit suspicious, and that's the clue, isn't it? This is a nice image that proves to me of it being an incline. This big rock's on the right, and I don't know if you can pick up how steep this is.
Do you think this is steeper than that last one? I've really not seen any figures for the gradient on these.
It's got to be a 1 in 4 or 5, probably 1 in 3 even.
I wonder what this is built on. Is it going to be slate? I can't see, or is it something else it's built up on?
No, but they've utilised another one of these mysterious metal poles, look.
And they're all the way down.
In fact, they're the whole way down, yeah. I bet you they are something to do with the original.
They might just be old-fashioned fence posts, Phil. Maybe. We don't know.
Ooh.
We've only seen them on the inclines, though, haven't we? We've not seen them on any of the other footpaths.
There was one on the top on the flat bit of road before we reached the incline.
Yeah, but that was still on the railway though. That's what I mean,
railway,
wasn't it?
It looks nice hairstyle on that one, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's very, very chilled out. It's like one of the clearest examples we've seen of a wall so far.
So this stream's gate crashed the track bed.
I'm assuming this is the bottom of this incline. I'm intrigued to know what happens when we get round the corner. I was just say, I said we walked up, we didn't walk. We cut across one of the fields. We've not actually, this is the first time walking on this bit of the tramway, but it's turning again, look, isn't it? It's levelling out here. Yeah,
it's also another recess of evidence of some sort of old structure connected to this working. Look, can you see there? It's gone flat, it's gone wider, so yeah, defo. I mean, I suppose there might have to have been some kind of, I don't know, did they also start from here then, would you imagine, if it's come down the incline?
Yes.
So also stables would have to have been here, for starters?
Hold that thought.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there must have been some way of processing the trucks at the bottom, you know, reattaching, attaching.
Marshalling.
Yes. Well, I thought that was a really interesting. I really didn't know what to expect of this section, Phil. It was more investigative.
It's apparent, once you've walked the duration of it, we've picked out various things that really is that's it.
I mean, it's fantastic history. It intrigues me, stuff like this, and the fact that nobody's done this.
No, I don't. I know very little, mate. I've left this one to you.
we're not pioneers by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, hopefully people will look. You know, it'll intrigue further interest and comment.
Yeah.
Now this is on private land here, and then from here we kind of joins the road running, so there's not really much to see through here, but it does cross the main road and then head over the fields. Now there would have been a bridge over here somewhere, just somewhere just over there, yeah. And then it went kind of, I'm assuming it's hugging just the edge of this person's garden here. So I've looked at the screenshots of this and things, and I'm just intrigued if there's anything left of that bridge down there. You know, like we saw on the Ash over.
Oh, we found abutments on just about every one, didn't we? When we looked down there.
Yeah. But so this is the route of the tramway here that we're actually walking on here. I have seen online it says about there's the stables here and there's old horse troughs. I don't know if they're still present here or not. I was hoping there might be something that we might bump into that might be obvious, but I can't see it annotated anywhere with any maps or anything. But look, this is the road we're parked on, Phil, just for your reference. The tramway's going straight over there, look through that gate. Realised this was one you could walk on, look, but this is the tramway just going out the other side. Yeah, look, you can clearly make out the route of it here, can't you, look? This rain's closing in, Phil, and we've not come out in as coats. Rookie error. Trust in the weather forecast. Less than 5% chance of rain, it says, you know, when I checked at the turning circle this morning.
Could be worse, actually. Just about acceptable. If it gets any worse, I think we ought to leg it.
We have got a Storm Amy coming today, haven't we? So it's a massive shame we've not been able to use the drone in any of these series of videos that I'm filming this week. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, easy to make it out, isn't it, the route here?
Yeah, it's quite an extra bit higher wall, isn't it? For you know, wonder if it's a Parlington Tunnel situation where someone didn't want to see who's going along the old plateway. So this, in effect, could be an original culvert going under the tramway.
Oh, yeah, little steps there, look.
It's a bridge.
Yeah. But look, this wall's following the tramway all the way around, doesn't it? Yeah. There's no doubt that there could be more potential for sniffing out further remains along this route. You can always follow this old tramway on maps and satellite views, streetcars, etc., across the fields and out towards the port. It's pretty obvious that the vast majority has either been farmed over, lost to road improvement schemes, or just simply vanished. If you're driving down the B4547 towards Bangor, this follows a good stretch of the tramway where slight deviations can still be seen where the modern day road has been realigned, corners smoothed out, etc. There was one more incline closer to the port, the Garth incline. Again, evidence can be seen annotated on the old maps, and like with the Craig-Lwyd inclines, there would be a drum house and stables located here. And once again, the road widening schemes and the new bypass have all but obliterated the route on the final sweep round to the port. And even the now also closed Bangor to Padarn Railway line cut right across the route of our tramway. Remember in episode 1 we showed you that tunnel at Port Dinorwic? Well, we also had another short tunnel on this tramway too, not to be confused with that one down by the Checkers office in the port. Now, a number of years ago, one of the portals for this tunnel could still be seen, but that's now been filled in and covered. Again, information seems to be pretty scarce, but we can see that earlier remaining portal in this photo with a smartly dressed gentleman and an extremely soggy rustle in the bushes on the final approach to the port was inconclusive, despite several leads on possible shelves cut into the landscape. So you might have noticed the weather's taking a bit of an even worse turn. Blown off the side of this marina. We're a bit later in the day now. We've found our way back. We're down to Port Dinorwic. Look, and we're actually walking on the alignment of our original horse-drawn tramway. Here, this was on this side of the river here. You know what, Phil? While we're walking along here, getting blasted in the face with these strong winds and the sideways rain, I'm just going to play the ladies and gentlemen some nice sunny drone footage. Anyway, I'm going to close out there. So this has been the old 1824 horse-drawn first iteration of the route from the quarry to the sea, the old Dinorwic Tramway. So next up, we're looking at the later railway, and that's the 1843 Padarn Railway. That's going to be a moist one, tell you that, because we've already filmed it. So we'll see you on the next one.
See you.
Ta-ra.